Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com, your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. The Off the Hook podcast at offthehooksports.com or Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or wherever you go for your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Off the Hook with Dave Hooker starts now.
Well, according to his coaches, he is super tough, throws his body around. He's smarter than his position coach. He is a guy who goes to Rwanda and gives back and is a leader. He's all that and more. Cooper Mays joining us now. It's brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Please like and subscribe to this video so we can bring you more Coop because we love Coop. Coop didn't even know it. And I don't think he still knows it. Coop, you officially went viral over the weekend or over the week for something. Yeah, something you said. Do you want to guess what it might be? What went viral?
Yeah, it's probably about Hendon's teeth, I'm guessing.
It was. So somebody apparently listened to that video and put out on Instagram. And as we tend to do, we responded. Well, you heard it here first. Hopefully that didn't get you any hot water. I thought that was a great story about Hendon.
No, yeah, he's really tough, man. That's basically all it shows.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Whereas somebody in the media, sometimes somebody can say something that doesn't like really register till after the interview, and afterwards I was like, "Whoa, we got 4 molars knocked out." That sounds horrible. But you did visit with the media, and let's turn to you and your preseason camp brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. City Heating and Air, go to cityheatandair.com and they're all about integrity. So, yeah, I knew about last season, but I wasn't full-time covering Tennessee, and you suffered an ankle injury. And boy, when I heard that in your press conference, you might miss a game with an ankle injury. You might miss 2 or 3, but I can promise you one thing about an ankle injury. They don't ever really heal completely during the season, do they?
No, yeah. You're kind of just fighting to get it back to a point where you can play at a good level and try to be consistent. But especially if you do it early in the season, it's hard to really make it back because the season you kind of just it's a grind. It's a really a long, tough season in the SEC. So staying healthy is the big issue for sure.
But you feel good. Everything's good now. I loved what you had to say about the fact that you feel better because of a tough off-season regimen. So when you go out there feeling good the first couple of days, that's a sign that you've done your work in the previous few months, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think you're kind of always going to come out fresh after not, playing for a long time. But the longer you can kind of like sustain that level and keep it going for multiple days and stringing together good days, then that shows how well you train in the off season, how well you really push your body. I think if you can put together a good, 7-8 days before that drop off, then that shows you did what you were supposed to.
Yeah, and I know that your offensive line coach, Coach Ellerby, had said that maybe you guys came out great and then wilted a little bit, I believe, on Wednesday in the heat and then came back Thursday. That's just kind of the natural ebb and flow when it's 95 miles an hour or 95 degrees, right?
Right. Yeah. It's definitely not friendly out there in the heat of the day. If it's 95, then it probably feels like about 105 because you're right next to the river, so it's humid as crap. And then, you got 20 pounds of pads on or whatever it is. It's never going to be, super pretty your first day in full pads in the fall camp. But, I think we did a really good job bouncing back and getting better on day 4 for sure.
I'll ask you about Darnell Wright. So here's a guy who is playing the second sexiest position in football based off paychecks other than quarterback. To be a left tackle means that you're going to get paid in the NFL, a little bit more than those right tackles. But Tennessee comes to him in the offseason, the coaches, and say, we might want you to move to right tackle. And he says, absolutely. What does that say about Darnell Wright?
Yeah, Darnell is just a guy. He'll do anything if he has trust in you. So I think he has a lot of trust in what the coaching staff wants to do for him and them wanting the best for him. Kind of. Darnell is a guy that's very, he's here to help, wherever he can, just like most of the guys in the room. So he's a very special talent, a very good guy. He's one of my best friends, and the sky is really the limit for him. People don't really know this, but Darnell is like a once in a very long time type athlete. Like the way he moves and everything is really special, honestly.
Let's delve a little bit deeper into that. What do you mean the way he moves?
Like just being like he's a good 6'6", 3, 35 or whatever he is, around in that range, and he can move better than I can, dang near, probably a little bit better. He does a lot of freaky stuff on the football field, like as far as like getting out of his stance and just doing like unorthodox movements. It's hard to explain. You kind of just have to see it, but like he does like some stuff that just is very off the wall, like special. Like that most people, just normal human beings, can't do stuff that he does at the speed at which he does it as well.
You're just talking about football strictly, or have you seen other things that he's done maybe off the field that you're like, whoa, that guy?
Oh, I mean, yeah, he can. I mean, he can. I think he went out there on the complex, like the indoor field, did a back handspring one time when he first got here. There's a video of him maybe in a state tournament in West Virginia where like it was like a fast break, and he's just as big as he is now, but he's playing basketball, and it was in a state tournament, and he caught a ball like midair and like did a 360 and like threw the ball back and had a perfect pass to a teammate. Just I don't you can't really explain what like he can do. It's very crazy.
So Cooper, as the question I get asked as much as anything is about Joe Milton, and things didn't end well the way he wanted them to in that Ole Miss game. We all know that. Mentally, do you think he's over that? Do you feel like the team has that faith in him, that trust in him?
Yeah, for sure. I think everybody would be behind him, 100% if he was in the position of starting. He's had a really good offseason. Everybody knows he's, big and strong and everything, but he's worked a lot on his leadership qualities and I think he's been working really hard. So anytime somebody shows you that in the offseason, you'll have full faith in them when it comes to time for the ball to be put to play.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, have you I mean, because the way he jumped out of bounds against Ole Miss is something I know he would love to take back. We've all got things in our life we'd love to take back. Is there anything, one play on the football field that you made that maybe went under the radar a little bit because you play offensive line instead of quarterback, that you're like, man, that was really dumb? Is there anyone that you walked away from was like, that is not what I should have done?
There was a play in high school when I was playing D line, and I got an interception, and I like caught it and like fell on the ground just to make sure that I caught it. But when I watched the tape back, I probably could have took off with it and scored. So that would probably be, my biggest regret as far as a football player, is I would have had a pick six, about a 50-yard pick six, in fact. So I'd probably take that one back if I had to.
Yeah, that would have been pretty strong. Speaking of, have you been timed in the 40 and all this when you guys do timing and weights and all that and headed into the season?
Yeah, no, I haven't ran a 40 probably since high school, I think. I'm pretty sure.
It really
Yeah, probably.
is. It's kind of the dumbest stat out there, isn't it? To some extent, for an offensive lineman,
Yeah,
especially.
definitely. Yeah, definitely for offensive linemen, I would say. There's not many. I mean, there's definitely a lot more useful drills. Like, yeah, I mean, I'd probably say the 10-yard split, the however long that is, that's probably more efficient to look at than the actual 40 yards, because the odds of an offensive lineman running 400 or 40 yards, straight down the field is not, even in the realm of possibilities really in football.
Is it safe to say that if you decided you wanted to beat me up, that I could not run away from you and get away from you?
Uh, I don't know. It just depends on
I'm
how
probably
motivated
like
I was, probably.
Cooper. I'm
You
probably like
probably
a
got more.
6'5" guy. I mean, not
Yeah.
6'5". I'm probably like a 6'5" guy. So you catch me.
No, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, you probably do a little bit more cardio than I do, though. You probably got stamina. You know, after 40 yards, I'm probably pretty tired. So if you can make it pretty far, then I'll probably give up by the end of it. That point,
Yeah.
motivation
Well,
is key.
that is true. It's how bad that I might potentially get beat up. What are some of the other numbers that you think that, because I know you guys had a person from the Senior Bowl stop by and talk recently, right? So
Right.
what are do you think the main numbers they look at as far as from a spec standpoint and all the tests they'll run you guys through? Did he give you any insight into that?
Honestly, he talked about more like it being all about the film as more than the drills and everything, the numbers in the combine. I mean, honestly, if you put the right stuff on film, the good stuff, consistently on tape, week in and week out in the SEC, then that'll trump kind of whatever the 40-yard time says. I mean, you still want to check boxes though. That doesn't mean that you can, do great in the season, just go out to the combine and lay a big fat old goose egg on everything. Like that's not what that means. But as long as you have, relatively, acceptable numbers, if you have really good tape, then it's not going to matter.
Who's the smartest person you played against? Because you're probably the smartest person they've played against.
Yeah, I would say two Georgia defensive linemen, Devontae Wyatt and Trayvon Walker. They're very high IQ guys because if you look at the film, Devontae Wyatt, I'll say that for two reasons. Devontae Wyatt, the one reason that I put him in there is because he was consistently like reading out of the plays. Like if he would go on a slant and he realized that like the play was going the other way and he wasn't going to be able to get to it that way, he would completely disregard what he was doing and recorrect and go back the other way. Like he was just a very headsy guy. He knew where the ball was going to go off the first few, half seconds or whatever. And then Trayvon Walker was calling out some of our, you know, whatever we were doing. He kind of, I think he kind of figured out what we were doing at a certain point, and that's not very common from a standpoint of our tempo. Most people are just trying to figure out how to breathe correctly at that point, and he still had his head in the game. So he did pretty good. I'll say that. So I'd say those two guys.
Well, speaking of that, can you give me a time where you've caught somebody just completely off guard because of the tempo? They had no idea it was going to be that fast.
Yeah. I would probably say there was I don't know about like a whole defense, but if you look at there's a couple clips maybe that you can find. There was a play when Cedric scored, I think, against South Alabama, and I don't know if it was much of confusion, but there was a linebacker over there on the field that was meant to cover set, I think, and you see him the play before in the middle of running back to the next play, you can see him asking all the coach. He was tapping his head to come out, like he was begging the sideline to put somebody in for him. And then by the time he looks back, we're already snapping the ball, and Cedric's running right by him for a touchdown. So that's a really good example of how effective Simbo can be.
One other thing, Coop, that did pop into my mind was Darnell Wright. You talking about his physical ability. How much can that help him at the NFL level, where you have to be a certain amount of physically gifted to even compete at that level?
Yeah, I mean Darnell's he can really like he can truly be as good as he wants to be. Honestly, like if you look at his skill set, like the way he moves and his size and the combination of that, like he can really do anything he wants. Like first round talent for sure. Just off his athletic ability and everything. He's got to continue to get better, but the baseline skill set there, like the tools he has, like the building blocks, is what NFL teams like clamor about all the time out of a tackle.
Yep, the coaches have said that playing left tackle and right tackle isn't much different in this offense, which surprised me a little bit. I guess they're referring just about pass protection, but to me, your feet, your footwork, and everything is completely opposite, at least to what I'd been led to believe at this point. How would you describe playing right side versus left side and vice versa?
Right. I mean, them saying that it would, not be much different. That they're probably talking about the plays. I mean, obviously the plays are just going to be the opposite. Everything that you're doing is going to be opposite, basically moving from left to right. So until people that don't really understand, or people that don't really like play, have never played O line, like they don't understand truly how difficult it is to switch sides. Being able to switch sides and not decrease in production and skill or level or whatever, that's extremely hard to do. So if you can see somebody that can move back and forth and be successful on both sides, that's extremely special.
So how do you think Darnell's done at that right tackle position?
Really good. I mean, Darnell, to be fair, also he played 2 years at right tackle leading up
Right.
to the switch to left tackle. So I think he just kind of picked up there where he left off. So he's been doing really good.
So what do you think about the guys? If you can kind of give me a scouting report of the guys that are vying for that starting left tackle position. What do you think of them?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a good battle right there. You got a couple of guys going for it. Like, honestly, every other tackle but Darnell can get up for that job. Nobody's, you know, left out. So if you look at it, that's the only the question mark kind of with us. We gotta figure out, who's gonna be there and then, base, a lot of our work off that. We gotta, kind of gel as five. So I don't know. It just depends. You gotta kind of find a way to get comfortable with your lineup there, and then we'll kind of work our way off that.
Yep, he is Cooper Mays. I've got one last question for him right after this. His appearance, as always, is brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare. All right, so last question is, with the scrimmage coming up at the end of the day, what do you most hope to accomplish as an offensive line unit out of that scrimmage? Scrimmage coming up on Tuesday.
I would just say the biggest thing would be, being clean all around and in what we're doing. Little MAs and a lot of effort. So just kind of, I think it kind of starts with, having your eyes right in the right spots where they need to be on the right guy. So I'd like to see us play clean and give a lot of effort for sure.
That is Cooper Mays. I'm Dave Hooker. Thank you, City Heating and Air Conditioning, where integrity is at the core of their business. That's why they've been around for over 50 years. I'm Dave Hooker. He's Cooper Mays.